Heavy Russian shelling hit a neighbourhood in the west of Kiev overnight, devastating a shopping mall. The building was completely destroyed. The ruins were still smouldering on Monday morning with smoke emerging. Fires erupted on several floors of the building. Cars in the parking lot went up in flames. Emergency services say at least 4 people have died from the shelling. In the meantime, Ukraine has rejected demands from Russia to surrender the eastern port city of Mariupol. Russia says it would guarantee safe passage out of the city for those who lay down their arms and open humanitarian corridors for trapped civilians. After weeks under siege, Mariupol is cut off from food, water and other supplies.
Russian state television records the destruction in Mariupol. Russia's military has managed to take parts of the besieged city following heavy bombardment. The price of its progress: burnt-out buildings and traumatised residents. A nearby steel plant was also hit. Russia claims to be denazifying Ukraine, but during an address to the Israeli parliament, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenski, himself Jewish, said it was Russia's invasion which was akin to Nazism.
On the 24th of February 1920, the National Socialist Workers' Party of Germany, NSDAP, was founded. It's a party who took millions of lives, destroyed half the country, tried to kill nations. 102 years later, on 24th of February, a criminal order was given to launch a large-scale Russian invasion on Ukraine.
They've taken to burying the dead next to their homes in Mariupol, with graveyards out of reach due to the fighting. Bodies line the streets as the Russian chokehold squeezes life out of the city. The war is wreaking havoc in other parts of the country too. Near Kiev, people were evacuated from the fighting to the Bovary suburb of the capital.
We were evacuated from Shevchenko village. There was terrible shooting day and night. This is God's nightmare. All of our buildings are demolished. It's just a terrible war.
But everywhere the Russians go, they are met with defiance. In the occupied city of Kherson, angry residents forced Russian trucks to a stop and eventually to turn around. More evidence the Russian invasion is not going to plan.
Let's go over to DW correspondent Fanny Fatshah. Fanny, we're seeing some awful pictures of destruction coming in caused by Russian bombing in the capital, Kiev. What can you tell us about that?
This attack apparently took place in a Podil district late Sunday night, after a relatively calm weekend actually in Kiev, relative of course in terms of the context of this entire situation here in Ukraine on the ground since 3 weeks. Now, Podil district is a historic district of the capital, and where the attack took place, this is sort of like a residential area. So not only that shopping center was hit, but also homes. It's unclear, however, whether those missiles hit directly the target, or whether actually this is debris that came down after Ukraine took down the missile. So there is some conflicting information there. What we know, according to local authorities, that at least 4 people have died, many injured, and we are basically also waiting for more information to come in. But regardless, of course, it shows you that even though they're all around for the past week, since this full-scale invasion has begun, and Russia keeps claiming that they only are interested in hitting military targets. Clearly, that's not the case, unfortunately, as we see not only in Kiev, but other parts of Ukraine as well, especially also in Mariupol, that civilians are bearing the brunt of all of this. And so many parts of Ukraine are turning into a living hell, especially in Mariupol, where the situation becomes dire by the hour.
Well, tell us more about that port city. It's in the south of the country. We've heard that the Russian deadline for the surrender of the city has passed. What can we expect next there?
Both Russia and Ukraine claim that there are going to be humanitarian corridors set up, or rather an attempt to put those humanitarian corridors in action. Of course, we have seen that attempt failing several times over the course of the week and the past week, and really wonder, the question is for civilians on the ground, they wonder if on a higher, on a more significant level, people can exit this city that really goes through heavy bombardment for days, for weeks actually, and people there are growing not just frustrated but increasingly uncertain what they should do. Should they choose to stay? But that means fatal consequences if you do not have access to food, if you do not have access to power, or should they risk what some actually have done during the past couple of days, trying to leave Mariupol on foot. We do not know if the humanitarian corridors are going to work this time, but of course people hope they have to work. Otherwise, this humanitarian catastrophe that we have also seen in the report before is just going to worsen with no end in sight. So really, it's like 5 to noon, if not actually 5 afternoon, when it comes to the devastating situation in Mariupol.
And Fanny, what about the situation where you are in the west, in Lviv, which has become a major transit point for the hundreds of thousands of people fleeing this violence?
At first sight, very peaceful. This is the western part of Ukraine, even though, of course, also a airport here, a civilian airport, a place nearby was attacked a couple of days ago. People here are trying to go about their normal lives. At the same time, of course, nothing is normal. So many locals here have taken in refugees, internally displaced people, people who were coming from Kiev, Kherson, other parts of Ukraine. And of course, people here on the ground are asking themselves just how long this is going to continue. They actually talk to us, thinking that we are representatives in Germany or even the German government in that way, because we report for Deutsche Welle, and they're asking us to call on the German government to help close the sky here over Ukraine so this bombardment can finally stop. This is the situation here in Lviv, while of course the mayor of the city is also calling on international organizations to step up their financial aid, because he says it cannot go on indefinitely, that Lviv has to bear the brunt in terms of trying to provide shelter for tens and tens of thousands of people who are coming here from the east, from the central part of Ukraine, trying to escape bombardment, and then basically stranded here as they're trying to make their way out towards Poland.
And it sounds like the air bombardment is only escalating, Russia claiming at least twice to have used hypersonic missiles in the past couple of days. What can you tell us about that?
Several of those hypersonic missiles apparently were used by Russia, something that Ukraine never verified. Ukraine did say, however, that in a small town in Delatin that we visited yesterday, in a neighboring state from here, that an attack took place. So we actually checked in that village of about 8,000 people. What do they know about such an attack? I mean, we're talking about a alleged hypersonic missile, which can travel up to 6,000 kilometers per hour. So this is really a speed we're speaking about that would bring a new level to military strategy, in fighting the Ukrainians. Now, whether that missile actually hit, we didn't receive that information on the ground. Rather, and it was quite interesting for us to observe, people were actually quite concerned to answer any of the questions revolving around the potential hypersonic missile that may have hit that area.